I'm Jeff Tutino, and I'm with C&R Racing Incorporated out of Indianapolis, Indiana, and Mooresville, North Carolina. Today we're just going to talk about the fact that most people know us just as a radiator company, but C&R is a whole lot more than a radiator company. We're a full-service facility. We make all of our fittings, all of our components, in fact, everything out of C&R with the exception of core. So what we'll talk about today is our radiators first, because that's what we're known for. Typical drag racing radiator here, Scirocco style, comes in a couple of different core configurations. We've got the standard that everybody's used to, and then we also make this in what we call a 36 millimeter, which is actually going to take some weight off the front of that car and give you a little bit more cooling capabilities with that. We also, in the dirt late model scene, with an oil cooler that's turned into something more than just a cooler. It's got a remote oil filter mount that's actually part of the cooler integrated. This is a packaging issue. Lighter weight, getting rid of some connections and components in the car, and also provides some great cooling. We shift now gears from more of our cup style performance or pressurized water systems, and we're going to introduce a pressurized system to the sportsman categories. Everybody's heard about it. They're starting to kind of get a little understanding for it, but they got to also keep in mind that it's not for every radiator. If you over pressurize a radiator that's not built for that, you'll balloon the tubes, which will cause the radiator to become completely ineffective. You'll be asking yourself 2 weekends after you've gone pressurized system why your cooling package actually gotten worse. So it's a key to understand everything about it. As we talked about the pressurized system, a typical radiator is going to have just a standard 1-inch tube. Some will have smaller tubes than that, but in this here we have a 2-row 56 millimeter radiator, which means it's 2 1-inch tubes. But as you can see, there's no center support at all in this tube. So as we span this header to header 27 and a half inches, we have very little strength because there's so much surface. This typical radiator that is found in most of your late model configurations through C&R is going to hold about 40 to 45 psi, and that's all. So your standard 30, 32 pound cap that you're going to race with, that's a fine radiator core, and you're never going to have an issue. As we get into this pressurized water system, and you really want to use it for what its benefits are, then you need to have a core that can handle that. And what that means is a core now that's got what we call B-tube in the industry. So we've taken that surface area, we've cut it in half, we've added strength through the tube in that respect, and then we've also changed our tube center slightly so we've got a lower profile fin. It actually gives us a little bit more strength in the fin. This core, 40 to 45 psi before burst. This core here, 75 to 80. We've got cores that will exceed 150 psi of pressure. Not something you're going to need for your short track racing, but it's out there, the technology's there. That leads us into also some other in-tank oil coolers that we have. Water to oil coolers, it's a stainless steel plate cooler configuration. Been in the industry for a long time. We're using it in a lot of different applications, either in line of a system or we're putting it in tanks and radiators like we've done forever. But it's also finding its way now into the pro touring segment of our industry. At C&R North Carolina, we're in the drivetrain business there, and so we do our own rental and lease programs for gears and transmissions, and in doing so we take that business a little bit further as well. We do everything with a REM finish on all of our internal gears for both our transmission and our rear ends. It provides a better contact surface, better efficiency, and less heat. We think makes a more performance part. We do that again on all of our rear gears as well, our ring and pinion sets, all REM polished. We're certified REM and take a lot of pride in that. Keeping with that same rear end theme, I guess, we'll also go into an internal oil pump that was not new to industry, but what we did was new to industry, and that is we created a pump that you can tune with a pressure relief spring. You need less flow, you put a different spring, and you need more flow for that real tight short track, and you got to save that 650 gear. Then we've got the product for that as well without having to buy any other different components. We also went to a wear plate system around our gear set. That helped it from, as there is some wear, it's not wearing into the housing of the part, and then it becomes something that can be repaired. Again, your salesman here can take care of the necessary components to rebuild that for you. We get into our drivetrain components further. We have a chassis dyno system in our company that allows us to break in every gear that leaves our facility. What that does for us and what it does for the end user is you don't have to worry about getting a noisy gear. Last thing you need to do is go to the stereo company to buy a better radio to get rid of the rear end noise. We make sure that the gear leaves and gets to you as efficiently as it can with as little noise as possible. At C&R, as we talked about, we machine all of our own parts. So all of our machine parts, this is our small filter mount housing. Everything's engineered in-house, and then everything is then built in-house. So we control all of our processes and all of our parts for tolerances and performance. A real key factor at C&R is the entire engineering department at C&R has either raced a vehicle themselves, worked on a professional race team, and has been brought to our company, keeping in mind, as an end user, how to engineer the right parts. Nothing that leaves our facility looked good on paper but had no practical use, because everybody that has designed this part has already been experiencing that in that industry. So they know how to build parts that can work for the end user. At C&R, we're always talking about engine oil cooling and engine water cooling, and in doing that, it's a radiator. Well, every now and again, the radiator can't just do it on its own if it doesn't have the airspeed from the racetrack. So in between hot laps, whether it's a circle track or a drag car, you need to be able to cool the motor back down, and you need to do it with an external device. What we've come out with here is our drag chiller. This is a 12-volt version, which allows the portability of running it through the staging lanes as you yourself are going round after round after round, hopefully for that win. And this allows you to put it right by the race car, and it has about a 2.5-hour charge on the battery. Everything's self-contained, comes with a hose kit, and what you have attached to the car is this check valve. And what this allows you to do is to take the hot water out, run it through the system, it comes back in on the back side of a valve and goes back in through the motor. C&R also makes an engine water heater and also a gearbox heater. What that does is it's for the early season stuff or your late races into the year where it's starting to get too cold, you want to do a qualifying lap and you want your temperatures up in your water, then you actually can hook up a heater. Same premise, same hookup system to the motor.